family, welcome. We are gathered here today to celebrate Derek and Megan, to witness a profound and boundless commitment between two people who we all cherish. And yes, you may be seated. They thank you for being here, and I know I speak for all of us when I say that it's truly a privilege to share this momentous occasion with them. A quick reminder, please turn off your phones for the duration of the ceremony. Megan and Derek hired a great photographer, so there'll be plenty of pictures. For their third date, Derek and Megan climbed a mountain. Mount Massive is a 14,429 foot peak, the second tallest in Colorado. A 13-mile hike there and back. Megan had planned this trek before she met Derek. She would start at 4 a.m. and she expected it would take her 8 hours to complete. For Megan, this was rather routine. Yet another 14er in her quest to summit all 58 in Colorado. For Derek, it was the perfect opportunity. He could monopolize the attention of this attractive woman for 8 solid hours. And so he happily invited himself along. Together they ascended 4,500 feet into the sky, chatting, joking, and discovering each other. To Derek's delight, Megan distinguished herself as an expert crafter of the corniest jokes, which, as everyone who knows Derek is painfully aware, had been his exclusive turf until that moment. Megan was impressed by Derek's hiking fitness, an attribute that more than compensated for the dinner he prepared the night before, which involved an unfortunate combination of vegan macaroni and cheese and tuna fish. The culmination of that hike, of that 8-hour conversation, stands before you today. It's a well-known fact that anyone who's been married for any length of time is obliged to give unsolicited marriage advice to the betrothed on their wedding day. In that spirit, as a married person myself, I've compiled a brief list of completely hypothetical situations Derek and Megan might find themselves in and what each signifies. Derek, in anticipation of an adventure with Megan, you might just spend all day calling every REI in a 100-mile radius, driving from Boulder to Silverthorne, looking for the perfect camping chair. One that's wide enough for two. And that's fine because she deserves it. Megan, Derek might induct you into a new sport, potentially involving a bicycle, breakneck speeds, and lots of rocks. As you learn this new sport, you might fall a lot. You might get scraped up and bruised. You might even give Derek an ultimatum saying, you break it, you buy it. And that's appropriate because today, Derek is buying it. Derek, it's possible that at some point in the not so distant future, you might ruminate about whether to buy a new truck. After hours of quite audibly deliberating the matter, Megan might send you to what she calls truck timeout. And that's great, because even though it doesn't have keyless entry, your truck is perfectly fine. Megan and Derek, you might be hiking along, perhaps near the top of Mount Massive, when Megan sees a majestic mountain goat, a mere 20 feet away. She points it out. Derek looks up and says, "That's a weasel." You're both very confused. How could Derek not see the mountain goat? How could Megan not see the weasel? Then, in a flash, each of you sees what the other is seeing, and you realize that you're both right. There is a goat and a weasel. You each illuminated part of the world for the other, and that's pure magic. Derek and Megan, you are standing atop a peak at this very moment, and it's just one of many summits in your lifelong journey together. You are embarking on an adventure, and like any worthwhile adventure, there will be joyous times and there will be challenging. By committing to one another, by making the vows that you're about to make, you are promising to share the burden when the path is challenging, and to share the exhilaration when you reach that transcendent peak. Next, we have a few special guests who will come up and speak. First, it's going to be Suzanne, Derek's mother, who's going to share a few words with the bride and groom.
Okay, well, all right. So, Derek asked us to share a couple of minutes. It's like we're married, it's a long marriage. Tom and I will be married in 37 years and so anyway, we've been a long time. So the main thing is that love is the only force, and it is has a magnifying attraction and brings everything to you. And before you can love anybody else, you always must love yourself. So the two of you have been developing your character for many, many years, and it's that love for yourself that you're sharing with your friends and your family and spreading that has attracted you two together, as you beautifully said. And so once you come together, the choice to stay married, it's a choice to love her just the way she is and to anticipate what she would love. And if she loves hiking 14ers, then obviously you have the map in your house with the pegs. So it's that choosing the commitment, the choosing to always observe and anticipate. You are your whole self just the way you are, because you are the love that you are, and you radiate that, and you are also perfect, whole, and complete. So together, you're making a new union that is just going to be a dance. And as Jason was saying, a marriage is something that is formed. It forms a beautiful gem under pressure, and you will have pressure, but you couldn't have a diamond without that beautiful gem. And so it blesses us, it blesses all of us as you guys go on your adventure of love and just keep collaborating. And actually the motto is, the couple that plays together stays together. The family that plays together stays together. So always play. Remember the child, silliness, goofiness, and I know you guys remember that. Anyway, I love you all very much, and we're so excited to see how this family goes.
Next, Megan's father, Chris, is going to come up and share a few words.
So, Nick was about two and a half, I guess. And I was lying on the couch having fever and chills because I had the flu. And Meg came over and took her blankie and very carefully put it over me and said, "Better now, Daddy?" And that moment, I knew she was going to be okay. And she is.
Derek's Aunt Lori will now share on behalf of Derek's grandmother, who wasn't able to join us here today.
It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. So she wanted to pass that on. The other two little lessons, but I better talk quickly, is she wanted to let you know that one of the things that she loved about my father, Sam Miller, was that he was willing to help her with the kids and a lot of other things, and so she wanted to remind you to share the responsibilities. The other thing was that they were out on mopeds, and Dad didn't put on his signal, and Mom missed the turn and fell off and hurt herself. And then he came running over, should we just get rid of the mopeds? And she said, no, what this is showing us is that we need to communicate better. So keep the communication open. Your travels will not always be easy, and there will be turns and twists, and people will get hurt, but always make sure that you stay together. So she wishes you lots of love and a wonderful, wonderful life, as we all do.
Derek and Megan have written their own vows, which they will now share.
Megan. Our love story is dotted with many serendipitous moments. And looking back on those moments, I feel grateful and lucky that they ultimately came together and converged right here. But I do like to think that perhaps as early as when we were kids, with you ascending the rocks, the red rocks across from Evan G. Fine Park, and looking out and imagining that one day you might share the view with a boyfriend, and me romping through the forests of Evergreen, too busy being a golden eagle to think about a girlfriend. I like to think that we're always going to find our way here, no matter what. I was completely smitten by you after our first 2 dates. It wasn't just that you are stunning, sharp-witted, and fun to chat with, but you had then, as you have now, an elegance about you. You have an elegance about you that enchants me. You, though, you still needed some convincing after those first 2 dates. It turns out that I was too preoccupied keeping my jaw off the floor to be charming, and managed to be perfectly mediocre. Thankfully, you accepted a third date. And thankfully, that third date was climbing a mountain to 14,000 feet, where the oxygen-deprived air made me seem funny and interesting. What I've learned about you in the 3 years since we made that trek up Mount Massive has me profoundly excited for our future together. You are an incredibly loving person. The consideration and empathy in which you approach every situation radiates from you, and it affects those around you. So while I have been teaching you to lift with your knees and that arugula can garnish just about anything, you have been teaching me a deeper form of love and empathy. Your sense of humor is brilliant and tireless. It ceaselessly dances with my jokes and my puns. And you treat me with a tenderness that has built a trust between us like I have never known. As we forge a life together, I promise to treat you with respect and kindness, whether we are in the comfort of our own home or we are ankle deep in the rainwater of a Category 3 hurricane. I promise to look after the little things, like rubbing your back in that spot that's always sore from puzzling. And I promise to grow with you, to adapt with you, as our environment, our physical bodies, and our emotional needs and desires change. I love you.
We both had to wait a long time to find each other, but boy, was it worth the wait. Derek, you are the light of my life, and I'm so humbled and honored to be standing here and starting life together as your partner. On our first date, your face dropped when you asked me if I liked mountain biking, and I said no. Somehow, a year later, I found myself starting a 20-mile ride that started at almost 10,000 feet above sea level, with 3,000 feet of elevation gain. An hour or so into the ride, I realized I wasn't going to make it to the top. I was already gasping for air and struggling with each rocky section. I told you I would turn around and meet you back at the car so you could ride on with your friends. You wouldn't hear of it. You told me we would both turn around as soon as I was ready, and in the meantime, we could stop for as many breaks as I needed. The group went on, we rested, you fed me snacks, made me laugh, and as we carried on, just the two of us, you patiently waited as I took breaks every few minutes. I couldn't believe it, but somehow we made it to the top above tree line, overlooking Kenosha Pass's brilliant fall colors. I'm not sure who picked this ride, Bobby, but whoever did had a cruel joke in store. On the way back down, there was still a final multi-mile climb to get back to the trailhead. Families of tourists out marveling at the changing leaves instead watched a very tired mountain biker hike her bike up the trail, too tired to pedal. You were exhausted too, but you kept biking on and eventually out of sight. On the verge of tears, I wondered if I'd even be able to make it back to the trailhead. Suddenly, in the distance, I saw you jogging back down the trail. Still exhausted, you took my bike and pedaled it up the hill so I would have an easier hike out. Life is sometimes like this ride. You make me the best version of myself, and with you the highs are even higher, and the lows just aren't as bad. Derek, you have so many amazing qualities, from your ability to pick up any new thing you set your mind to your optimism and sense of humor that brings so much joy and laughter to those around you. You are as tough as they come, and you are a rock for so many here. But most of all, you are the most deeply loving, patient, and kind, and you show that to me every single day. I am so lucky to have the honor of loving you. So as we start this next chapter together, I promise to love you unconditionally through the happiest of days and the hardest of years. I promise to be loyal and faithful to you always. I promise to laugh with you and find humor in our everyday. I promise to continue growing with you, challenging you, and learning together. I promise to find compromises and seek understanding in our differences. I promise to continue seeking out new adventures, but also cherishing our quiet moments. And most of all, I promise to love and support you unconditionally for the rest of my days. I love you so much, and I can't wait to meet you.
Derek, do you take Megan to be your wife? Do you promise to love, adore, and encourage her? Share the good times and achievements, as well as the hard times and disappointments. Keep her in sickness and in sorrow, and be loyal to her forever and always.
I do.
Megan, do you take Derek to be your husband? Do you promise to love, adore, and encourage him? Share the good times and achievements as well as the hard times and disappointments. Keep him in sickness and in sorrow, and be loyal to him forever and always. The circle has frequently been used to symbolize eternity. The ring, like the circle, is a reminder of the perfection and endurance of Megan and Derek's commitment to and love for one another. Derek, please take Megan's left hand and repeat after me. This ring is my promise that I will always love you.
This ring is my promise that I will
Cherish you and honor you
cherish you and honor you
all the days of my life.
all the days of my life.
And with this ring, I be wed.
With this ring, I be wed.
Megan, please take Derek's left hand and repeat after me. This ring is my promise that I will always love you,
This ring is my promise that I will always love you.
cherish and honor you all the days of my life. And with this ring, I be wed. And so, by the power entrusted in me by the state of Colorado, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Derek, you may kiss the bride.